Welcome to the world of LearnX. We're stepping inside best practice today, and I'm joined by Naomi from PetsApp. So, PetsApp, a lot of people will know the platform. I
Yeah.
guess there's going to be people who are watching and listening who are using it. But tell us about the original itch that you were trying to scratch through PetsApp. What's it all about? What's the problem that it's solving?
Okay, so I remember having conversations with Tom. Tom was based in East Asia and he was running multiple clinics out there, and he was working in practice. So both as a vet, but also helping on the business side of the clinics as well. And he was just really unhappy with the discrepancy between how do you maintain a business so that it's viable and you can offer these services to pets and their pet owners, but also advocate for the pets in the way that they deserve without just treating your staff like robots, without everybody being burnt out. And he was really feeling it. The stretch was epic. And so for him, I think he knew straight away that something had to change, and it couldn't continue that way. So he saw what the two issues were. And so the birth of the app was like, how do we merge these two parts to make sure that we can maintain the services that we offer. We can advocate for pet owners, but also we can support our veterinary teams, whether that's the receptionist, the nurse, the surgeon, the practice manager, that everybody is being supported and that they can fulfill their roles successfully without sacrificing their souls basically for it. And so that's how it was born.
So, in simple terms, what does PetsApp do? Like the relationship between the vet practice, the pet owner, and the pet. How does it bring people together?
Yeah, so in the most basic terms, you would call it a client engagement platform, but it does so much. You've got the chat element there for pet owners, so they can at 9 o'clock at night when they've got the kids to bed and they sit down and they mentally want to just dump off their to-do list, when they've got on there something like I need to book an appointment, or I need to, for my dog, or I need to get my next lot of flea and wormer, or I've got an inquiry because I don't know what time the vet's opens tomorrow. They can drop those in the chat. You've got elements such as Copilot, which helps veterinary clinics when they need to give a response that's maybe not emotionally charged, and so they can use human-led AI to construct answers for pet owners. You've got reminders, you've got appointment bookings in there. You've got Scribe. So we have a remote Scribe feature within the app. So within consultations, the vets can have their whole consultation transcribed and then notes made clinically for them, but also in layman's terms for the pet owners. So there's just so much in there. You've got wellness plans, loyalty plans. You've got a CRM in there, so you can create campaigns. Everything in there that not only builds and supports compliance, but also kind of bonds the pet owner to your clinic and makes sure that engagement is maintained throughout the year, that it's not just one kind of like sporadic appointment and it drops off again. Because we know like the amount of pet needs that are actually addressed by vets, it's I think it's way less than even 20% are seen. So, being able to have that contact maintained with the pet owner and the vet is huge, and that's the big role that PetsApp plays.
So it sounds like it does a lot. I've not personally used it yet. I know practices that I know do use it, and people speak very highly of the platform. It does a lot. What doesn't it do? Because I'm a tech person. I'm always interested in like what technology does a practice really need. So what doesn't it do? So I can kind of fill in my
Not
gap.
It's not a PMS. So it's not,
Not a
it's not.
PMS. Yep.
No, it's not a PMS. I think a lot of people that might be the assumption, because a PMS plays quite a big role in the in the way that client information is held and processed within a clinic. We integrate with the PMS system so that we can personalize elements within the app, but we're not a PMS. But what we do is we reduce missed call rates by around 85%, help clinics generate revenue. We've got some clinics that have increased revenue by as much as 20%, sometimes more. But the key element is the time saving. So because so much can be done within the app, clearing up the phone lines, but also streamlining the processes within clinic, we see on average that veterinary teams get around 3 hours back every day. So they're saving 3 hours just by using the app.
Because there's a lot of tangle when it comes to technology. Often teams have lots of different tools, and sometimes the tools that people are using are not fit for purpose. They're old, they're tatty, they're falling apart at the seams. But people don't like to move from things they know. Not many of the vet practices we've worked with have an IT department. That's quite a rarity. I was actually with a new client yesterday, a very capable practice manager, used to handling, lots of pressure, lots of patients, lots of people. But she's like, well, I'm not a tech person, What's your take on the industry as a whole, Naomi, in terms of, does it feel like it's a bit behind in terms of technology and efficiency?
I think maybe if you looked at kind of PMS systems, especially even up to 5 years ago, there were a lot of them that were very clunky. There are some great PMS systems now that are coming up and being used. The problem I think is not the lack of need and not the lack of want, is that you've got veterinary teams, and that, when I say the veterinary team, I mean everyone in clinic. So whether it's the receptionist, whether it's the RVN, whether it's the vet tech, the surgeon, everybody is stretched. And so it's not always about them not being willing to try new technology. It's physically, how the hell am I going to create the bandwidth in order to incorporate something and change what we're doing to make it better? And so, the key, I think, is not the change in mentality always of the practice teams, because I see a lot of practice teams, they're really frustrated because they're really forward thinking and they're really open to new ideas. But it's how do we physically incorporate those things, because they don't come out of vet school being trained in technology. And you've got some great receptionists that don't have the training to be able to be the tech person, to be able to transfer the systems over. So you need products that are intuitive. You need products that are supportive in that transition. That they're not just throwing things over the wall and then legging it. They've got to be there to help with the integrations and the setup. And I think that's where the discrepancy is a lot of the time, is that even if they're given the products, they need to be shown how to use them, and they need to be allowed to take them and break them a little bit. And I think that's where you often get the fear or the gap.
Amazing. So how do you break PetsApp then? What can we do to hack into it and modify it?
So this I think is like it's like giving away the KFC recipe, isn't it? It's the secret in the sauce for PetsApp, is that we give our product over to our community, so to veterinary teams all the time. Sometimes it's hard, it's soul destroying, because you have this great idea, and we have these regular pack meets where we come up with ideas, and we're kind of like brainstorming different things that we think would be really good for the community, and then you give it to them and they go, yeah, nah. Or they'll say, yeah, we tried it, but it isn't exactly what we want. So the great thing is that you go to them, you say, okay, so what do you want? And that's where we've found that we've been able to progress fast and produce features that are useful, that are incorporated quickly, is that the teams themselves take it. The teams themselves will use them. They'll let us know how successful they are, will see straight away where there might be glitches that need to be fixed. But they'll also throw back ideas and say, look, this is where my headache is. This is where I waste time every day. Make me something that fixes this problem. And so I think that's the secret sauce.
So as someone who's built tech platforms, I really value the people that come back with suggestions, or sometimes, I mean, I don't want to say it too loud in case we get them, even complaints. People come back and say, this didn't work, or that, why is this isn't right. I'm one of those people as well. Like when I use a tech product, I'm always sending them like share screen videos saying, I'm trying this, and why can't I do this? And it would be so helpful if you could do this and that and the other. I think a lot of people don't realize that that's actually something you can do. You can be involved in shaping the products that you actually use. So do you encourage that kind of exploration, that kind of experimentation with users? Is that something you're kind of pro at PetsApp?
100%. I mean, any creative, so it doesn't matter what you're making, what you're creating, you do have to kind of leave your ego at the door when you hand over your baby to other people. But the truth is that with every piece of criticism, with every piece of feedback, and even with every complaint, if you handle that and you show that genuinely, like you really want to fix that problem and you really want to make it better, there's no better way to bond somebody to your product. There's no better way to get buy-in from clients than to say, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Throw at me what your pain points were, and let's work it out. And I think that you can turn even a complaint or a piece of criticism into something really positive, and have the person actually go away feeling really good that they shared that with you. And really, you need it in order for the product to not become a legacy and outdated, and for it to be able to progress and stay relevant. You need that.
Absolutely. And it's good when you get that responsiveness from companies. I've sent things to tech platforms and you don't hear anything back, and you're like, well, this is a company who's not interested. They just want to sell it and ship it, and that's all that they're interested in. I think the progressive platforms, the ones that tend to grow and stick around, are those who are iterating and listening. So what would you say to someone who's preparing, it could be PetsApp, it could be another platform, it might be a PMS kind of switch, someone who's very anxious, understandably, about the disruption that comes with new technology. What would you say to someone who knows that the grass is greener with some better technology, but they're just scared to invest the time they don't feel they have now in doing it? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think work out what your blocker is. Tom always talks about bottlenecks, and he'll say, you only ever have one bottleneck at a time. So work out what your bottleneck is. Work out what is the blocker that's stopping you from doing it. If you've established that you need it, why can't you have it right now? And work out what that is. If it is just fear, then dig into your community. Ask questions, because if you're feeling something, you're not the only body that's feeling it or experiencing it. Other people will have gone through that, and other people have had the same fear, the same blockers as you, and they'll have experience that they'll be able to say to you, that it stings a bit when you pull the plaster off, but then afterwards everything is great. And I think sometimes that's what people need. They need reassurance. And I think if you've researched a product and you've researched a team, and you think to yourself, do you know what, actually, I think they align with who we are and what we do, then the best thing to do is to reach out and have a chat. And if you feel that you then can connect and work with the humans that are behind the product, then you can take the next step. Don't bog yourself down with the next small step being this massive, huge change, because it might be a slow, gradual transition, but you won't know until you start.
Yeah, no, some good advice, really. I think, that's the thing. People sometimes think technology is technology, and usually there's some kind of team or support base of people who want users to use the technology because someone's created it with a vision to solve a problem and to help. There's practices we work with where like, oh yeah, I'm best friends with support at this company, and that's really good. We really encourage that with the practices that we're working with. So you mentioned Tom. So obviously we've had a conversation before, Naomi. We've spoken a couple of times, and so Tom is your brother. So he's kind of founded the platform, and you're involved with kind of leading the team in terms of marketing and all that stuff. Now you're breaking a couple of rules here. Don't work with family. Don't work with animals. You're kind of doing both of those things. So tell us about that kind of side of the dynamic. What's it like working with family?
Yeah, I think that kind of defines what it means to be Jenkins. Going against the standard cut. My area of expertise basically is community and growing community, and I think that the whole concept of PetsApp kind of comes from mine and Tom's upbringing. We're from a very large family. We're six siblings, very close, and our entire upbringing, we had each other to lean on, and we've always supported each other. And so, the whole point of PetsApp is to support the veterinary community. The dynamic between me and Tom is very good. We know that we both have each other's back. We both have very different areas of expertise that we can bring in together. There are a lot of jobs that you do, and you think to yourself, well, what's the purpose or the fulfillment here? But PetsApp does do good things. It helps people and it helps animals, and that that in itself makes you feel good about what you do.
So let's go somewhere a little bit different. I know we've been talking about technology, and obviously you're letting us know more about PetsApp. I'm learning about the platform, and people watching and listening will be learning more about what you do, why you do it. But let's talk about starting new things, because I'm from a tech and innovation background. I'm always doing new things. For me, veterinary is a relatively new thing. We got into the sector kind of last summer, so about 18 months ago, through one of the large accountancy firms that works in the industry. They asked us if we could help some of their clients, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been really fun. But one of the challenges that I see working with practices is perhaps there isn't that leaning in of kind of culture of innovation. People have so much pressure around the day to day. Dealing with clients and client communication and dealing with emergencies and all those kind of things. But you've obviously started something quite fresh and innovative. So if there's people listening, watching, maybe practice owners, or maybe vets in teams or nurses or receptionists who are thinking, yeah, we want to try something new. Maybe, as new things are coming into the market, like we're building, new apps with AI to solve narrow problems and all kinds of things. What do you think's needed within a veterinary team for it to be more innovative and future facing? What are some of the things you could take from your journey with PetsApp to encourage teams to step forward?
I think training and education, and making sure that the training and education that you're giving yourself, that it's bite sized, so you're not overwhelming yourself with a lot of information, and that the information that you are bringing in, you're able to process it and digest it. A big part of what we do is our PetsApp Together community and our educational content. So that's all there. I would say, if you're interested in something, you want to learn a bit more, go over to the PetsApp Together Academy, look at other academies, and start kind of bringing yourself up to scratch with different products, different technologies, and start working together as a team. The biggest innovations that we've had and the fastest movements we've made as a pack is when we have all come together and we've brainstormed, we've worked out what a problem is, and then instantly work together to find the solution. I think a lot of the time in clinics, from my experience, is not been people's lack of buy-in to new innovations. It's that they need to get the buy-in of their entire team. And so there's often the communication within the team is slightly disjointed. And so it's hard to get the buy-in of everybody because they don't have that level of communication as a standard. There are kind of like gates between receptionists and the clinical team and the practice management team, or you might have like a larger corporate group where you are a small part of a bigger engine, and so it's hard to try and get the cogs moving. But I think that, if you lean into your team and try and open up those avenues of communication with the people that you work with to get buy-in from other people, then you can start to make movement. And the way that you do that is by educating yourself.
Absolutely. Education is essential, getting that foundation, collaboration, coming together. One thing I think is essential um, within a team setting, but this can be quite vulnerable, is this idea of having a go and being willing to fail, or being open to the fact, when you try new things, things are going to fail and not work. So on that topic, tell us about some of the features that never made it, or the things that you shipped with PetsApp that were like, we thought this was going to be great and just nobody liked it, used it, or, are there any particular things that kind of spring to mind there?
A lot of our features, we've built them because we've been asked for them. And so most of the features, I think it's not been the fact that they haven't been used. It's more been that they've ended up being used, or they have evolved into something that we didn't actually think they were going to be in the first place. I do think that COVID helped to kind of like spawn all of these new tech innovations. But I think where everybody was during COVID and where they thought tech was going to go isn't necessarily where it is today. So I think that there was this idea that, vets were going to end up being completely digitalized and, just, only accessed via a video link. And for us, we've found that is not the case. That the products that we create need to have that good mix of clicks and bricks. That people need to have physical engagement as well as digital engagement, and that technology is great, but it needs to be human led. So everything needs to be human in the loop technology. And we've got lots of really great automations, but they really do need to be led by their teams, and they do need to have that human involvement. There's this idea, AI is going to take over the world. I don't think that that's where we are at all, and especially not in veterinary.
Interesting developments. There's many interesting things happening with AI. Nobody knows what a humanoid robot's going to be able to do, and how soon they might be able to do. Nobody knows.
There was a bigger drive, I think, about 20 years ago in robotic animals. The robots as pets could mimic almost perfectly. It's not like humans. With humans, you need to have like real definition in features to be able to show expressions. With animals, it's slightly more basic. So the animatronics that they had and the AI they had to create robotic animals has been there for a while, and they really thought that these robots were going to take over from pets. But there's something built into humans where we take joy even from picking up our animals' poo and crap off the floor. There's a connection there in having to care and tend for something else, and it's the same
no
reason.
No one likes picking up another animal's poo.
No,
it's not the same, is it?
No, but there is this weird connection that that you do it, and that people didn't buy into those pet robots because they wanted the full experience. They wanted to be there for this live, real thing through good and bad. That they wanted to be there for the good days where you're out, playing fetch and you're in the park, but also where you're by that pet's side because it's sick and it needs you. And so I think sometimes with these ideas of what AI can do, sure, it can do a lot, and it's likely that it will be able to do even more. But at the end of the day, we're humans, and the needs that we have and the innate needs that make us slightly different are always gonna be there, and AI is never really gonna change that.
Absolutely. They say AI can fly a plane, or a plane can fly on autopilot, but would you get on that plane which didn't have a human in the cockpit? Probably not. I certainly wouldn't buy a ticket for that plane journey.
If you're looking at the client journey from day dot, where they maybe go onto Google and they type in vet near me, all the way through to like the, having their consultation and what their next movements are after they've seen you in clinic. There are huge gaps. So there are multiple points where that pet owner can suddenly disengage and disappear from you. And it might even be that they go onto Google and they find you and you come up as the first veterinary clinic that's near them, but they mistakenly take a left out of their door and not a right. And they come across by chance another veterinary clinic, and then you're gone because they have a need and they want to fulfill it. So there's a lot that you can do. There's a lot also in once you have got a client who has come in and they've registered with you that you can do to keep them. And I think a lot of clinics do well when they look at things like customer lifetime value and they look at what the needs are of a pet owner. And so there's been a lot in the press, for example, over the cost of living crisis, and that the cost to after a pet is quite high, and especially in the UK, there's this big gap because we have the National Health Service, and we don't often have exposure to how much medical care costs or how much medicine costs. That it can be quite shocking when you have to actually pay those fees for an animal. But there's lots that you can look at. So you can look at how physically your store looks, your clinic looks. Does your practice look welcoming? Is it easy to see from the local high street, or if you are on the exit of a motorway, is there anything that signals that they need to exit off that motorway to get to you? When they come into your clinic, is it welcoming? Does it accommodate their animal? Do you have an area in clinic that is maybe for animals that are waiting to be seen to reduce anxiety? Do you have a different entrance point maybe for cats who are notorious for being very like agitated when they come into clinic? Online, do you have an appointment booking system online as part of your website? So can people book online? So if they find you on Google, rather than having to go to Google Maps and to walk to you physically, can they go to your website and book an appointment to see you? Do you have automations that once they've had that consultation with you, that you have a campaign that sends out automated reminders and appointments for them for their next session? Are you talking to them after consultation? Are you pinging them notes for the consultation so that they can maintain compliance for the pet? Because going into a veterinary clinic is stressful for the humans as well as the pet. And if you're being given like a whole load of information, it's unlikely that pet owner is going to remember everything. So you need to make sure that each stage they feel bonded to you. Are you looking at wellness plans? Could you maybe, if one of the reasons that people are leaving, which is another thing, are you capturing the feedback as to why people are leaving? Are you getting people to review you when they come into clinic? But if the feedback is that they just can't afford it, what can you do that doesn't cripple your business, that still supports your staff, but also supports the pet owner? And something you could do is wellness plans, and within that wellness plan, they pay like a monthly subscription, but they have unlimited consults throughout the year. Are you actively participating in the community?
Naomi's like away with like so many ideas, so many things you can do, and I absolutely love that. I think it's great. I can feel your energy and excitement around it. The kickback that I get, because I'm like stuff like full of ideas and we can do this. The kickback is always, I'm so busy, I don't have any time, and that kind of stuff. So what would be one thing if you're a busy practice owner, but you're know that you need to do some marketing, you need to get some new people in through the front door. It needs to be an air of predictability, not just let's wait and see if who books in and that kind of thing. What's one thing that people could do each week if there was just a single thing that people should focus on? What would you recommend as a place to start?
I mean, start with your website. You know, make sure that you're ranking well on your website, which you can do. You don't need to pay for Google Ads to do that. You can do lots of organic activity, like, you know, regular blog posts, and have things like online appointment booking, so that you're not having to actively and physically go out there and find people. People can find you and click straight in. Have educational blogs on there. So have blogs on there about, you know, the importance of flea and wormer, and the importance of the products and the medication that the pets use being veterinary recommended. Joe, like, think about things that your pet owners are going to be searching for online, and have content on your website and on your social media that answers that need. And then when it comes to saving time, start looking at automations and reminders, you know, so that you're freeing up those phone lines. You know, incorporate chat so people don't have to call you. So, you know, your phones are only for emergency use then, but also incorporate reminders so you're not having to pick up the phone to phone people back, and allow those automations to be going around and cycling in the background, so you can focus on the stuff that matters, which is the level of care that you give and the level of service that you give. And the more time the veterinary clinics have, the better the service they give, the more bonded their clients are, and the less likely they are to leave them or to churn from their clinic.
So there's a definite need for consideration when it comes to like how many different channels of communication should a practice allow. I've heard arguments for, well, we need people to be able to like WhatsApp or text or, you know, email or contact form or do this or do whatever they like to make it easy. And then on the other
Yeah.
side, people saying, well, we just need one thing to streamline it so it can be consistent. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you balance out, you know, kind of accessibility and client preference with also then pragmatism on making it easy to actually deliver and communicate with clients?
Yeah, you need to meet people where they're at. If text is their preference, then that's where you need to meet them. If WhatsApp is their preference, that's where you need to meet them. And I think that's, you know, something that we're focused on in PetsApp. The pet owner doesn't have to have a PetsApp in order for you to communicate with them, and you can communicate with them in PetsApp via WhatsApp or via text. I think the key is to have everything in one area, so you're not having to jump from platform to platform to try and manage what's coming in and what's doing what. You do need something that can centralize everything and can break it down for you quite easily, so that you can allocate what's coming in to who it needs to go to. Because some inquiries that come in, whether they come in through text, chat, or WhatsApp, they might just be for the receptionist, and they might just be like a very quick response is needed. Some of them might just be a response to an email or a campaign that you've sent out to let you know, yes, okay, you know, thank you for that appointment reminder. I'll be coming in, and nothing needs to be done other than to log that they have confirmed. And so I think, you know, centralizing and streamlining the way in which you are looking at all these different ways of communication is the key. Not being so worried or stuck on the fact that people are engaging with you in different ways via different platforms.
So what are your thoughts, Naomi, around the future of veterinary practice? We've obviously come over the past couple of years into this very exciting, slightly scary, occasionally petrifying world of AI. You're obviously using AI already with PetsApp in terms of your co-pilot. How do you think things will change in terms of customer experience, customer relationship, customer communication in the coming years? Like, what kind of things are you dreaming up for PetsApp, or where do you see the sector moving in the next few years?
I think it's very exciting, and I think you can understand just how fast the sector is moving, because you're seeing people from other communities and other sectors now starting to invest and show interest in pet health in the most broadest sense. I think one of the most wonderful things that I've seen in the past year is that actually, we the truth isn't always what we're seeing published in articles or in newspapers, and actually we're seeing more and more independent veterinary clinics pop up, and we're seeing huge volumes of reviews from pet owners just raving about their veterinary clinics. And I think, if you were to take, a selection of any part of the population and sit them down and ask them to tell you how they felt about their lawyer or their accountant or their vet is always going to come out on top. That actually they have a very bonded relationship with their veterinary team more times than not, and they have huge levels of respect for them. And the same for pet ownership. We're seeing changes in the way that people have pets, and we're seeing change in the way that they incorporate them into their families. But we know that the need for veterinary services and pet healthcare is there in a vast amount, and that actually still only around 12% of a pet's need is being brought to veterinary clinics. And so if those veterinary teams can open up the level of communication and really tap in to that, there is the source to bring in new clients to maintain their business, and there are the technologies now to make sure that they can balance that surge. Because what we've seen in the past is that you get kind of like a feast or famine with veterinary clinics. So there's either this huge need, like now at Christmas, it's toxic treats season. Everyone's bringing out the mince pies and the chocolates, and pets are being rushed into veterinary clinics because they've secretly, or they've found a stray mince pie. And so now all of a sudden you've got this huge surge of pets needing emergency care, whereas you might have had like a 2-month run where it was a lot more quiet. We need to teach the veterinary clinics how to maintain that level. And so even if they do have a big surge, they've got the technology to be able to filter it through and manage it for them so they don't feel overwhelmed or buckle under the stress of it. But also they do have that continuous drip feed of new clients coming in to maintain their business.
Some really good insights. I guess you've been working in the sector. You're listening to the customers, so you're sharing some things I think a lot of the listeners and viewers are going to really resonate with and gain value from. Naomi, I'm going to do something a little bit fun with you now. This wasn't on your list of questions I sent over to you. Our consultancy for the veterinary sector is best practice. So we want to help people achieve best practice. So to try and paint the picture of best practice, we're going to have a little bit of fun by measure of contrast here. So I'd like you to describe worst practice. So that's our competitor down the road. Worst practice, how do they communicate with their clients? What's worst practice doing?
In the most tangible physical elements in the real world is not understanding the importance of smell. That would be one big one. That animals can be quite stinky, and if you go into veterinary reception where those smells aren't being eradicated, that is a big issue. Digitally, what I would say is a big no-no, is that it can be really stressful to work in a veterinary clinic, but under no circumstances should you pick up your phone and make a social media post when you're feeling really, really stressed. I think that's probably worst practice, is when you see new reels come through on social media of veterinary teams that have had a really difficult patient, or maybe feeling really disgruntled because they've seen a really nasty news feed that's come through, and so they want to retaliate. Don't do it. That's what I would say. Don't do it, because both having a stinky reception and posting a really crappy reel on social media, both of them can really, really push away your community and alienate you from your clients.
What about dealing with complaints? How do they do that at worst practice? When a client's unhappy, how do you do it badly? How do you rub salt in the wound of a customer who's reaching out to you because they're desperately unhappy that their dog's not had the star treatment?
You see it on Google reviews all the time. I think a bad review, you kind of have to just let it kind of like slip off the shoulder a little bit before you then read it and assess it. Give yourself a bit of time, have a look through it, and decide. Sometimes it is stressful going into a veterinary clinic as a non-clinical member of the population with your animal that you love dearly. And so sometimes as a pet owner, your reactions are extreme and not valid. And so sometimes the reviews that the veterinary teams will get, they'll be really nasty, and they can if they read them with a clear mind, they can understand there's nothing here. There's nothing for us. This wasn't about us. Sometimes the bad review is something that they need to take on board and probably they need to consider, and it's a change that they need to make, especially if they're seeing the same complaint being made. What they should never do is retaliate to the review. And this is what you'll see often in Google reviews. You'll see a really bad 1-star review and then you'll see a nasty retaliation. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. In that moment, to tell somebody to jog on, it probably feels good, but there will be repercussions to it. It's just not worth it. Have a dartboard in the staff room or something. Have a punch bag. Like support each other in your rate.
That could be a new feature for PetsApp, maybe some kind of the therapy room with some kind of game, a darts game, perhaps.
Yeah, just don't post it online.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we haven't covered today, Naomi, that you think would be really helpful to share with vet teams? We're thinking about practice owners. We're thinking about the vets, the nurses, the admin team in the back office, the reception and the front desk. What kind of things would you like to encourage people with? Coming back to the beginning of the conversation, really around, getting your kind of tech out of a tangle and making sure, things are streamlined. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to leave as an encouragement for people?
Yeah, I'd really like to encourage veterinary clinics, especially independent veterinary clinics that aren't part of like a bigger umbrella, to reach out and speak to other veterinary clinics and to just really, really engage with their community. One element that we just didn't foresee being as successful as it has been is the PetsApp Together community. And we often do events where we bring different clinics together. We do a bit of CPD together. But the big thing is that you get 2 clinics from opposite side of the country that meet each other for the first time, and they're being introduced to people that understand how they feel. And that they can have conversations they would never be able to have with their family members, and they can see the other person like actively nodding and kind of coming up with responses. I would say really dig into your community, have a look at the PetsApp Together Academy, because there's learning elements in there for everybody. So no matter what level you are, what part of the business that you work in, but generally, stuff like this, eat it up. The best practice event that you've got going, attend as many of these as possible. With every piece of content that you consume, with every event that you attend, you not only increase your own education and your own learning points, you will meet new people. And so I would just urge people to reach out and just connect with each other.
Absolutely. There's a lot of wisdom in that. You learn so much from relationships, through feeling understood, through seeing other people's strategies that have failed and also the ones that have worked, and you can avoid having to do all the hard yards yourself. And I think a lot of independent practices do feel proudly independent, which is great, but maybe a little bit too independent, that they're not connecting perhaps with as many other practitioners and seeing what's working and not working for others. So thank you so much for joining, Naomi. It's been really nice to
Anytime.
speak to you. Love your passion and energy. From what I know of PetsApp, it's serving over 6 million pets around the world. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you're doing a fantastic job. Hats off to you with what you're doing. And for anyone listening or watching who wants their CPD certificate from the Best Practice Summit, make sure you jump onto LearnX platform, interact in the comments to the reflections, and you'll be able to find out more information about what PetsApp are doing through there as well. Thanks so much for joining today, Naomi. We'll see you again.
Thank you.